of a broken dawn. Steel towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a dingo returned with a coat in his veins. Save up on dingo, racing through the night, claws on chrome, eyes burning bright, guarding of futures the core can't control, running on data but driven by soul.
What is up, everybody? It is 8 o'clock here in Australia. It's great to have all of you here. Cat Lady, welcome. Kurt, welcome. A few familiar names here. It's great to have all of you here. Oh, and Kurt, thank you very much for the donation. I didn't even see that. I was just looking at the intro song there. I was working on that actually. Oh, is it too low? Let me adjust that in a second. How about now? Is it better now? Yeah, so I actually made that so that it could go in the outro of my usual videos, so that I could have all the members and patrons and sort of thank them for it. And it kind of looks like rolling credits, but I guess it could also work as an intro to these live streams as well. But it's good to have all of you here. I'm glad you liked it. Hopefully it becomes catchy enough. I actually uploaded the full song onto Patreon for anyone who wants to check it out. But this one has this really cool sax solo in it, so I just sort of sliced it together and made a little anime-ish compilation for it, which was a fun exercise. Yeah, so the music is through Suno, and the rest of it, it just took a little bit of trial and error to get the right song. But all the images, all the animations, that was also, I just created AI images and just animated them. So that's fantastic. Yeah, I had the artist, I guess, is me. I don't have a singing voice, but the artist is just me using prompting for like many hours until I got the right music. The lyrics, yeah. It was partly AI generated. The others, I was just in there working on making it as great as possible. I always felt like it had to be a bit of a story. But this whole cyberpunk dingo thing, I always thought it had to be some sort of cool. There had to be some sort of cool story behind it. And I think the intro plays into that. But everyone watching right now, you're actually the first ones to see the actual outro itself. But if you are on Patreon, you would have actually seen the full song. But the animation, you're actually the first ones to have seen it. So that's great, and I'm liking the positive feedback so far. So let's get started. Before I begin, I have to apologize. I did say I was going to do a lot more live streams, but turns out I was actually traveling last week, so I couldn't really get on to live streaming, and I was in Sydney for like a lot of that. So, but now I guess I can sort of get back to it. What's the actual story? I've actually upped it quite a bit. I think it's at full volume at the moment, as far as I can tell. I can move the mic a little bit closer, see if that helps. Let's see. Yeah, it's everything here says it's at full volume. Unless I start, maybe I'll speak a little bit louder as well, so that you can hear me a bit more. What's the story behind the dingo? Well, you know, that game, Cyberpunk 2077. So I actually really enjoyed that game. Not when it first came out. I think I waited like 2 years before I played it, and really enjoyed it. I've always loved the whole cyberpunk aesthetic, synthwave music, and all of that. So it sort of played into it, and I initially, and now this name is going to sound really bad. It was, I think I chose the cyberpunk wombat, but it didn't roll off the tongue really well. So I was like, all right, what's a better animal? And I love dogs, and you guys know the story behind why I got black dogs as pets, or part of the reason why I got them as pets. And I felt like, all right, let's have a look at what else I can look into here. And dingoes, iconic Australian animals, even though they might not actually be native, they might have been brought in, but yeah, I was like, all right, this name, Cyberpunk Dingo, that rolls off the tongue a lot better. So that's actually why I went with it. And if you're not Australian, and if you ever decide to visit Australia, you can actually go to a few zoos and find some dingoes that you can pet. And they don't look that different to dogs. Almost like a tan, slightly bigger. I haven't actually seen one in a while. But anyways, enough about dingoes for now. Welcome everyone. Glad to have all of you here. I know it's a little bit late, I guess, in the day, but I figured 8 o'clock Australian time might actually be okay. I often find a lot of my Australian viewers don't necessarily hop on in the morning, so perhaps evenings work a little bit better. And of course, if you know, people might have been at the pub for the AFL Grand Final today, and yeah, don't know if Australians, if the Aussies in the chat actually did watch it. All right, so just a few housekeeping items. I guess in terms of the channel itself, as I said, and you might have noticed it here, I have been sort of appearing in almost every single video of mine now. I find, like I said before, I do find it, I feel like I'm speaking to my audience rather than just speaking to a mic when I'm editing videos, and I generally, and I've found myself to enjoy that quite a bit. So I'll keep that going. Unfortunately, for now, I have to keep this mask on for obvious reasons. And here's a crazy fact that I realized just before, and it's that it's hard for me to take breaks during live streams to grab like a drink or something, because I've got this Pepsi here, but I can't actually drink it. Like that's one of the bad things about having to wear a mask. And I've got like a bunch of drinks, protein. I've got probably a couple of white monsters here as well, and that is what fuels the channel essentially. Apart from that, I don't know if you guys have heard about a few issues a number of large YouTubers have been talking about that's impacted their channels. That issue actually hit mine as well. If I have a Bunnings hat, if that works. Yeah, that would actually take a bit of effort, huh? But Actually, I don't know if you guys noticed, but initially I had a different mask. But the problem was like it actually covered this part here a little bit too much. It was a hard cover. So unfortunately, whenever I spoke, it was too muffled. So I got a different one, and it's actually a mesh texture here. Like it's a mesh fabric, so that my voice actually travels through a lot better. Oh, I did have a ski mask. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this is ages ago when my first ever appearance, I guess, on YouTube in person. That was when I did a podcast with Infidel Noodle. She was looking for, and she did a video on Islam in the Maldives, because it's one of those few countries with that's 100% Muslim, which is also not true, by the way. And I actually reached out to her. I was like, hey, guess what? I'm actually doing YouTube as well. And I was born there, and I spent my childhood there, so I could actually tell you a lot about it and sort of fact check what you think you know about it as well. And that's when I jumped on, and I had this half ski mask on. It was not a fun experience. I much prefer this one, and I think the Oni mask having a deeper meaning behind it also works quite well. So back to the YouTube issue. I don't know if you guys have seen a few of these things. These videos, a lot of large YouTubers have been talking about it. Linus Tech Tips was someone who mentioned that his views were down. And initially, a lot of YouTubers didn't really know what was going on with their channels, and a lot of large channels were facing the same issue. And I noticed the exact same day, all these YouTubers started having issues. I also started having problems. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I'm always of the philosophy, like, I have a creative process. I have things that I like to talk about, and I'm like, there's somewhat of a uniqueness about my channel. So I'll keep going. There's something that people like about it. So I'll keep going, and I'll always try to make really, really great content. And that is going to be what's behind the idea behind the channel. And it worked out really well for a year plus. So around August 15, I noticed, and I think you guys can also see this on my channel. I noticed like a lot of my videos, like where did it start? Yeah, after this, I did this video, and I thought it was a really cool one. Suddenly, it only hit 17K, and I was like, what the hell's going on? Because I actually had a sponsorship in there as well, and I was expecting to do really well. Because on average, I would do like 40K. I always assume, okay, that's baseline, and over 50 to 100 was typical for my channel. But then suddenly everything started dropping, and I was like, wait a minute, YouTube isn't pushing my videos to non-subscribers either. And then people like Linus, Josh, Strife Hayes, Friendly Geordies, yeah, they all started talking about it. And it turns out it's actually not, like, everyone assumes YouTube changes their algorithm all the time and things happen. And then I was like, I don't know, like, if that would cause that significant of a drop. Turns out, ad block is the issue, which is ironic because I actually use the Brave browser as well. So apparently ad block works in a funny way where it actually uses a list, and the view counting, I don't know the technicalities behind it, but apparently something that YouTube uses to count views, that got added into the ad block list. And so everyone who was watching my videos on desktop PCs, apparently, yeah, I do actually pay for premium as well. Yeah, apparently Adblock was preventing YouTube from counting views. And that is why people like Linus and there's so many of them, like large 1 million plus YouTubers. They're also like 30 to 50% view drops. And apparently that was why. And obviously ad blocks meant to block ads and other tracking, not view counts. So if YouTube doesn't realize that these are getting watched by people on desktop, then that means it sort of reduces how much reach it gives to the video over its lifespan, which is why I guess the channel has seen a big drop in views. But look, to be completely honest with you guys, when I'm doing YouTube, I quite enjoy the editing process, coming up with ideas. A lot of people do see it as a chore, but I really don't. And I think one part that I certainly did not enjoy after this change came about was uploading, because every time I would see like a 10 out of 10 in terms of rankings, but now I think I'm a little bit over it. My idea is to just keep making as great content as possible. But I think there has been an update since to that ad block list, and apparently it might have been slightly fixed. But so you know what, like I'll keep on going. System error message. You can check out Jeff Girling, his blog. I'll try to. I'll pop this in the chat so you can actually see. Where is it? Oh, here we go. I'll pop this in the chat so you can just have a read if you're interested in what happened. But anyways, apart from that, today we have a few interesting topics that I have lined up for you guys, and the first one, we're actually going into Australia. So I don't know if you guys have seen my podcast with Harris Sultan. And in these videos, in that video, I actually spoke to him about, well, funny enough, when we actually started, try to connect with Jeff. Oh, that's not good. System error message. So I actually started the recording before we started recording. I actually spoke to Harris a little bit about ex-Muslims in Australia and how, I'm wearing a mask, he's not, and I'm like, how did you come to that point? Because I think it's quite important to sort of make aware, I guess, other people who've left Islam or are trying to think about leaving Islam, what sort of dangers they might face, even in a Western nation like Australia. And he said, look, he's been doing this for many years now, and at the moment he doesn't feel like he's in very much danger. I somewhat disagreed in a way, because I was like, I think if you especially have family that are Muslim living with you or living around you, and depending on how radicalized they are, you might be in a bit of trouble. So this case is actually not about an ex-Muslim, but it is about what a family like that did. And I would just like to, if you haven't seen this, I just wanted to share this with you. And there's this one and another story. So a woman allegedly beaten against a concrete wall by her mother for not marrying her first cousin will never set foot in the family home again, a court has been told. Inam Hamid, 45, and her husband Mohammed Al-Fadli were arrested in April after police allegedly discovered their daughter Rhonda in their convenience store in Western New South Wales. And if you didn't know, guys, Western New South Wales is like where all the Islamic enclaves are in Australia, with a metal chain padlocked around her neck. Police allege Hamid and Al-Fadli assaulted their daughter on separate occasions after finding out she was still in contact with her boyfriend, who had asked the parents for permission to marry her. And that was obviously refused, because guess what? The father wanted his eldest daughter to marry his brother's son, the woman's first cousin, in an arranged marriage. And this is when, after discovering her on the phone, this is when the assault happened, and obviously there was a lot more to it. And her father allegedly travelled 400 kilometres back to the family's shop in Dawah from Sydney Airport after hearing from his wife about the secret phone call. And this is when he did all that. Now, the girl was obviously able to contact both the police and her boyfriend, and obviously the parents have been charged. But this is the bad thing about this specific incident and what is happening overall in Australia, which is even people like this get bail. Like, is there any reason why someone or two parents who are this depraved and barbaric should be out and about within the community? Well, to be honest, like, a lot of people in said community probably agree with them because they probably live in an enclave. But in my personal opinion, if this issue is so serious, and obviously in Australia, there are certain laws which prevent familial marriage, but if you even have a look at cousin marriage rates in other Western countries like the United Kingdom, for example, you'll see that it's almost primarily Pakistanis or Muslims, and that's because under Islam, cousin marriage is allowed. And you know, a lot of people do assume that Islam does not have arranged marriages and it's all free. No, it's not like that at all. In fact, it's perhaps more common for these marriages to be arranged, and a lot of the time they are actually, in fact, with family members. And guess what? There are actual memes about. I'll see if I can find this. Uncle Bashir. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Oh, God. I don't want anything bad to come up here because this is a sensitive subject. Let's see. Nope. There's a meme about this. No, I can't seem to find it. So essentially, it's something like, a lot of Pakistani girls in the UK, they dream of marrying like some Korean gentleman because they watch a lot of K-drama and K-pop, but in the end, their family just marries them off to Uncle Bashir back in Pakistan. Yeah. I do believe this is actually more common than people realize in Australia, and obviously even in this case, I've actually only found this article in very few news sources because guess what? Nobody wants to like the ABC. They wouldn't want to report on this for obvious reasons because that's against the narrative. But this is actually way more common than people realize. I'll see if I can find if there's a map or something like that. Those were some interesting stats there. Oh, here. Let's see. No, the UK. The UK. All right, maybe not. These are some crazy percentages. 65% in Pakistan. I don't know why specifically like, Pakistan's worse when it comes to this. Saudi Arabia 50%, 40% here, 80% in rural areas. Actually, in the West, it's under 1%. But if you look into the stats, actually, children with birth defects are significantly high in Pakistani communities in the UK because of this issue. And they cost the British taxpayers billions of dollars in extra healthcare payments because they just can't stop marrying their cousins. It's pretty insane. And guess what? They immediately go to, oh, but the royal family was also engaged in incest. Yeah, many years ago. Like, and that was one specific family. You're doing it now. Yeah, and at a certain point, if they keep going, who was this? The Toucher. If they keep going, what happens is, later generations actually become infertile, so they can't have any more kids. And obviously, at that point, multiple generations need carers, full-time carers, because they've developed significant birth defects. And yeah, have a look at this. How is this a good thing? It's actually terribly sad if you ask me. What happens to these families, and unfortunately, the fact that a large number of let me rephrase. I shouldn't say Brits. British Pakistanis have this issue, and my biggest concern is that this starts happening in places like Australia. Obviously, and in this case, it was a forced marriage as well. Best place to live? Honestly, that's up to you, mate. Carnito Carquinos. Yeah, look, it's not entirely a bad thing, I guess. But I don't know if you can entirely rely on this, because it takes a few generations before it actually reaches that level. But all right, let's move on to the next story. This one's actually a little bit more, shockingly enough, this one's more brutal than this story, which is, and I actually couldn't, because I don't pay the subscription for the Daily Telegraph, which is a News Corp website, and they actually they've done something where I can't even use the usual methods to bypass their paywalls. But look, that's all right. Daniel here has graciously put up a little summary, which is, a Sydney court has heard a 50-year-old devout Muslim mother allegedly, we'll not say that word, her daughter in the back with a large kitchen knife on discovering that her 19-year-old daughter had converted to Christianity. So obviously she's an ex-Muslim because of that, and was sexually active with a man. Documents presented to the New South Wales. Guys, if you're not from Australia, just remember this is the state in Australia that is essential, that has, I believe, the largest Muslim population and has quite a number of ethnic or religious enclaves at the moment. Ironically enough, if you put up a heat map on Australia as to the areas which voted no in the same-sex marriage vote, that part of Sydney would have been bright red, because they all voted no. The lefties won't tell you this. The queers for Palestine hate that fact, by the way. Anyways, documents presented to the New South Wales Supreme Court allege that, okay, this name is going to be a challenge. Khulud Zreika. Is that, I don't, like, I know a lot of Arabic names, but this name sounds a little bit weird to me. Is that a Lebanese person? I don't know. That's an interesting name. Anyways, and her daughter, Jannah, 19, got into a heated argument after the mother discovered Jannah's Bible, rosary beads, and photos of her with her boyfriend. Acting Justice Derek Price granted her bail. Again, yes, they all get bail. No matter what your crime is in Australia, they just don't lock up people like that. And in this case, you know what? It's attempted murder, and guess what? This person still gets bail, and it's $10,000. And observing that she might not face a full-time custodial sentence if convicted of the charge. Again, this is you could potentially call this two-tier justice, even in Australia. I guess people have been probably locked up for significantly less, and I think after in a few months, once certain digital ID bills pass, and the government actually knows who you are online, and if I guess if you say the wrong thing, perhaps you might get arrested for something a lot less than that, for speech issues. But this is insanity to me. This person, again, has tried. This is her daughter, and not even that has mattered to her. And this is my problem, right? Like with the whole idea of apostasy in Islam, and even in the West. This is a mother doing this to her daughter because she converted to Christianity, and guess what? Christianity is an Abrahamic religion as well. So there's a few similarities between the two religions, and even that doesn't matter. And guess what? Like, a lot of people actually are a lot of Muslim scholars especially, they are a little bit more lenient towards Christians and Jews, and some even say they might eventually enter heaven. I don't quote me on that one because it's just random sheikhs that I've heard that from. But even in that case, they're not atheists or anything. They're still going after them because guess what? Like, they're following Sharia law to the letter. And I think like, obviously there's two components to this. If you didn't know, this already extramarital or premarital sexual relationships also carry very severe penalties in Islam, and in this case, for I guess the mother was trying to get two birds with one stone. You could almost say, one for apostasy and one for premarital sex. But I think even in this case, obviously, if you didn't know, Islamic women cannot marry Christians and Jews, but Muslim men can marry Christian and Jewish women. So it's just another way of ensuring that men have the power in relationships, and children can be converted to Islam rather than follow the religion of their mothers. I actually had a friend who's from Nigeria, and his dad, ironically, his dad, was a Muslim, and his mum was Christian. And he was pretty funny because he kind of practiced both. It didn't make much sense to me at the time, but he was one of those weird guys, and I feel like at the end of the day he was probably an atheist. That's the best explanation. But guess what? Again, this is happening in Australia, and I know a lot of people, like, when like, immediately when you see someone had converted to Christianity from Islam, you don't immediately think of them as ex-Muslim, because as many of you know, I would think the vast majority of ex-Muslims just become non-religious. This is just me speaking anecdotally, but I guess the second most conversions would be to Christianity. And I think for a lot of these parents or families, I feel like they would be more insulted if their children actually converted to Christianity or, I don't know, Judaism. I know that would be a very small number. But I think they would be more offended if their children actually converted to Christianity over non-religion. Because, let me explain this, because Islam gives a lot of Muslims a bit of a superiority complex, because Muhammad was the last prophet and he was the last and final messenger. And obviously they always talk about how the Quran has all these miracles and it remains unchanged, all of that. And the fact, and they always say Christianity and Judaism were corrupted, even though Moses and Jesus actually brought in the right message back in their times. And that is why I feel like they'd be more offended if someone went to Christianity, because it would be almost like, you have the latest iPhone and you actually downgrade to like something a generation before that. That's how they feel. And obviously, I actually have looked into ex-Muslims in Australia because I wanted to see how organized they were, if there were any outlets for ex-Muslims to sort of find support. And it doesn't matter what you converted to. You could be non-religious, you could be Christian, whatever you are, as long as you sort of don't feel alone and you feel like you have a lot of support. And I was looking into it, and I ironically ran into this article, and it was a really funny one, where someone for their PhD did something on apostasy in Australia, and it was a Muslim who did this, and the professor was also a Muslim. And in it, they were trying so hard to essentially be like, oh, no, we don't do the capital punishment, or we don't enforce it socially or otherwise in Australia. But here's what we do. And all the imams and all the sheikhs and everybody, or professors, whatever, we all agree that what should be done to ex-Muslims instead is to essentially make them an outsider, socially ostracize them, and or kind of exile them, just kick them out of the house, cut off all contact. That's the sort of thing you should do. But the reality is that's not what happens at all. The reality is it is enforced rather violently. There's a lot of social pressure there, and that is why this person, when he was writing his PhD thesis, he actually couldn't find any ex-Muslims to provide any evidence for what he was saying. So he just had to make everything up. And I felt like that alone was testimony enough that what he was writing in his theses was entirely inaccurate, complete nonsense. And I feel very strongly that Australia has this problem. Now, obviously, Australia doesn't have as big of a Muslim community as the UK, where this issue would be more pronounced. But at the same time, there would still be a lot of community pressure. Yeah, no one leaves. And this is how a lot of countries actually inflate their numbers. And you know, a lot of Muslims, they talk about, how we have a 1.5 billion or whatever. That number will not be accurate. Even if I think back to the Maldives, for example, they claim that they are 100% Muslim. And why does that happen? Because if you're not Muslim, you lose your citizenship, which is, obviously, I can vouch for that anecdotally. That's what happened to me as well. And that's what happens to people from over there who are gay, people from over there who leave for other religions. Essentially, all of them just lose their citizenship, so they can keep saying, oh, our society is 100% Muslim. But the reality is there's probably a lot of people who don't believe in it at all. Yeah, that's right. If you didn't know already, Iran's really funny. There was actually a post the other day I put up where someone was like, what did they say? What is a safe country for homosexuals or it was like, what was a safe country for transgenders in the Muslim world? And I immediately responded, Iran. The reason I said that was because it's true. If you're gay in Iran, they essentially just make you transgender. They just switch your gender to be female. So they can claim there are no homosexuals here. These are straight people as well. Obviously, the other side they don't want people to see is the people who don't actually do that. They go up on the cranes, and not to do construction work. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah, Natasha, I think you're also correct. I have seen quite a number of these countries have not just gay porn, but normal criteria of porn as well. The reason being, you know, when you're in such a sexually repressed nation where you don't even see women, and you know what they do in Afghanistan, right? Because there are no women and women can't be around in public, guess what they do? They get men to act like, or young children to act like women. Well, I don't think I can speak too plainly about that on a live stream, but you can look this up. It's really well documented and it's really dark. What happens in Afghanistan? All right, now we'll move on to the next one, and obviously this has been making the news, and that is, of course, what has been happening in the United Nations. Yes, Kurt, please, everyone, if you have the time, have a look at that. It's pretty disgusting. Ironically, I have actually heard the Taliban were against that, and after they were ousted from power, that tradition actually came back. I haven't fact checked that, but if that is the case, that would be quite interesting as well. Now, obviously, the next one is, I don't know if you've seen my last video about how recognizing a Palestinian state is wrong, but if you are unaware, the UK, Australia, Canada, and France all have recognized Palestine as a state. In fact, a few of them actually changed their at the address of their embassies also to be in, I guess, I think the address now says Palestine, whatever. They haven't defined what that is, but of course, apparently that means they've recognized the two-state solution. Obviously, there are a lot of issues with this. And we can start off, if you haven't seen this video already, have a look at these delegates just walking out when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gets on stage. Look at them all walking away.
Order in the hall.
I noticed something here.
Please, order in the hall.
There is a list of people who actually left, and I believe the vast majority were Muslim
Please
countries.
order in the hall.
Muslim countries like Spain and Ireland, of course.
Please order in the
I
hall.
thought this is
Please be.
this is pretty funny, actually. Look at that, just taking videos. And I'm pretty sure there were people actually taking videos of them leaving.
Order in the hall.
Yeah, look at this guy. It's just such a spectacle for them, isn't it? And this guy here as well. Just taking a nice video of everybody leaving. Oh, look at these African gentlemen. He's very excited. Oh, he's very excited there. But look, I think this is really weird to me. Obviously, like, you know what? You have the right to not listen to things. You have your freedom of speech. You have all of that. But the whole idea of the United Nations is to essentially come to this place where all world leaders are and come face to face with people who you disagree with. You often come face to face with really bad people. And ironically enough, a lot of these people walking out represent those bad people. And I think this just goes against the whole idea of diplomacy and international relations. Because if you want the whole Israel-Palestine issue solved, shouldn't you listen to one side as to what they have to say? But no, let's just ignore that side entirely because we're not getting our way. And at the end of the day, I think the UN has now passed more resolutions over the past year or two against Israel than any other country. And that includes countries like Iran, that includes countries like Turkey, who are doing a lot of bad things, by the way. Includes countries like Yemen, includes countries like Saudi Arabia that essentially starved Yemen for, how many years was that? It includes countries like Russia who invaded the Ukraine, and that has resulted in what? Like over 1 million people have died because as a result of that conflict. Nothing there. How about North Korea? No, none of that. Iran? No, none. They just and they have focused so much on this one conflict, and I think the part of the reason, and I've always said this, is because regardless of how you want to put it, there are a lot of Muslims in the world, 1.5 billion, probably more than that today, and in a world that's connected via the internet, unfortunately, that is a loud voice. It's the second largest religion in the world, and if I'm not mistaken, I think if we exclude Africa, for example, Christianity is obviously the biggest, but a large amount of large number of these countries have a lot of young people who have access to the internet and who are quite familiar with social media and that. So obviously their voices will be loud, and this is essentially a manifestation of those voices. Now, there's a lot to be said about Spain and Ireland, for example, with Spain especially. The Catalans, they've been looking for independence, but Spain decides to ignore that, and they're focusing on a conflict in the Middle East. And Spain is having a lot of issues with over-tourism and all of this, and I believe they don't even want to essentially increase their defense spending. They're just going to let everybody else increase their defense spending, like Germany, the United Kingdom, and France, and they're just sort of going to sit back and do their own thing because they assume, hey, look, Russia has to go past all these other countries to get to us first. Sorry, to get to us. So I don't understand. And Ireland, I somewhat understand because of their history why they would be like this. But I think if you're at the United Nations, you have somewhat of a responsibility. You're not forced to, but you have somewhat of a responsibility to listen to people who you disagree with. Even if you believe they're some of the most evil people on the planet, because that was the whole purpose as to why this was created. And I believe I can actually find who the countries were. I actually saw a few lists here. But ironically, the UAE did not walk out. And that's one of the funny parts, isn't it? To me, honestly, it's not that surprising because the UAE has somewhat been trying to accelerate towards being a bit of a progressive country, and I've always said in the future, we're talking 50-ish years, I feel like countries like the UAE, perhaps not Saudi Arabia, are probably going to look at being a lot more secular, where Islam plays a significantly smaller role in how it functions as a state. So here are the countries, all right, that walked out. Iran, amazing, because we all know Iran is a country that generally cares a lot about human rights and that sort of thing. Ironically, I did see someone say the most popular foreign leader in Iran is Netanyahu. And Netanyahu actually in his speech did talk about Iran, and even when they were having this problem with water, I think the Israelis actually put up something online as to how to extract water or how to fix their systems. And when those strikes were happening against the IRGC, a lot of Iranians actually were celebrating. So Iran is a country that is ready for a change in their regime, but obviously, like, the regime is completely armed, and I think a resistance movement does need a bit of help. I'm not sure how soon that could happen, but I think it will happen over time, slowly. It wouldn't be like an instant revolution, because a vast majority of Iranians actually do not believe in Islam. Funny enough. And I think that there are rules against apostasy as well. But nobody actually, like a large majority, do not believe in it. Turkey. What has Erdogan been up to? And if you haven't seen this video already, I'll try to show this to you. This is one of the funniest things. I've actually seen Donald Trump do. I don't know if you've seen this, but check this out, okay?
Of Turkey.
Unfairly, as it turns out. Rigged election, you know, he knows about rigged elections better than anybody.
Look at him. Does he know he's making fun of him? I don't think he does. Like, look, you can say whatever you want about, you can think about Trump however you want, but he's one of the funniest politicians I've ever seen in my lifetime. And you know, he has the balls to actually say that to someone like Erdogan, the watermelon seller. Yeah, I couldn't believe he said that, and no one realized. I wonder if the translators actually translated that part for him. Like, have you seen that video where Trump goes looking thin at Kim Jong Un? Oh, here. I don't think they translated this part for Kim Jong Un. They excluded it.
Getting a good picture, everybody, so we look nice and handsome and thin.
잘생기게 아름답게 찍어달라고.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I don't think the translators actually did the whole bit about handsome and thin. They just left that part out. Oh god. But anyways, yeah, that's Turkey. I got distracted there. Okay, then there's Walaikum Assalam, Allah. It's good to see you come down from the seven heavens and join us in this live stream. Thank you very much for joining. Obviously, there's Jordan. Qatar. You could say Qatar is the head of the snake, essentially essentially a lot of this. Pakistan. Do we even need to talk about Pakistan really, with their blasphemy laws and essentially, like, you can't even convert to any other religion. Apostasy is illegal. Their women's rights probably rank at the bottom of most lists everywhere. So let's not even talk about them. Algeria. Actually, don't know too much about them, but Algeria, I think, would have been a lot better if they had not been colonized by the Islamic invaders. South Africa, another state that is failing. Indonesia, you know what? I'm actually a little bit biased towards Indonesia because I do love Bali. But Indonesia, certain states in Indonesia, while people are enjoying their holidays in Bali, they're whipping people for premarital or extramarital relationships. So, and I believe Malaysia, is it Malaysia or Indonesia? One of these countries is actually going to penalize men for not attending Friday prayers. And if you didn't know already, Friday prayers are a big thing every week. Everyone gets together, and you just essentially see people spilling out of mosques, because Friday is like the holy day in Islam, like Sundays with Christianity. Ireland, I actually. Oh, you're going to Bali? Have fun on your holiday, Hansel. Yeah. Okay. Look, a lot of these countries, Saudi Arabia. Good lord, a lot of these countries, they're not entirely the greatest people to be walking out. It's pretty hypocritical. And I think a number of these countries probably actually are home to a lot of minorities and dissidents who would love to have a platform in a place like the UN. Would these people still be walking out if they're given a platform like that? Probably. I do want to go back to something Netanyahu does actually say. I think I bookmarked that somewhere here. Where is it? Oh, here we go. This is an important video, because I think something that is very important for a lot of these people to know or understand is the fact that the Hamas October 7 attacks probably were perhaps one of the biggest failures in planning, and I guess they assumed it would do a lot for them. obviously the Abraham Accords, they were able to sort of stop that in its tracks. Saudi Arabia, who were planning to join, I think this is primarily why they actually went for it. But yeah, let's listen to this because this is very true.
Half the Houthi leadership in Yemen, gone. Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, gone.
And not just Sinwar, essentially the entire leadership of Hamas are gone.
Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, gone.
Again, not just Nasrallah.
The Assad regime in Syria, gone.
That was a big one. I don't think anyone expected the whole October 7th thing to sort of result in the Assad regime to fall. And they fell in like a week's time. It was so quick, which is crazy to me.
Those militias in Iraq, well, they're still deterred. And their leaders, if they attack Israel, will also be gone. And for Iran's top military commanders and its top atomic bomb scientists, well, they're gone too.
Yeah, that's why I've said it many times over the past few years, but I feel like October 7 was probably one of the biggest mistakes made by a terror organization. And I look, I have said this on the channel many times. I've said this on live streams before as well. I have always been a big believer in the two-state solution, and this was before October 7, because I was always under the impression, hey, look, this has been going on for a while. These people are clearly struggling. It doesn't appear that their leaders actually do know what to do, because they're under the delusion that they would be able to essentially defeat perhaps the strongest military force in the Middle East and in the world, in fact, militarily, and gain back Israel or the territories that were formerly there. That's not going to happen. That's probably never going to happen. I feel like the Israelis probably are going to fight until the last man to ensure that doesn't happen. And I don't think the world, regardless of what Albanese or Starmer or Carney are saying, or Macron in this instance, regardless of what they're saying, I don't think it's going to get to a stage where the Israelis lose Israel as a state. But I always thought, hey, look, if you can elevate Palestinians, and I think a lot of people who actually live near Gaza before October 7, they were off the same idea. You might have heard Douglas Murray talk about how a lot of these people were peaceniks who were completely believed in coexistence, gave these Gazans jobs. When they got sick, they took them to Israeli hospitals and brought them back. So there was this belief that there could be coexistence, and I was one of those people. And I thought, you know what, two-state solution is completely possible. What the goal should be is to elevate their living standards, provide them with essentially a bit of hope, provide them with economic opportunity, do all of that. And perhaps because they are more wealthy, they'll stop being, if you didn't know this, there are a lot of studies that show that with wealth and education, religiosity actually goes down. So I felt like, okay, this is the pathway to essentially de-radicalize the Palestinians as well. But it turns out their leaders definitely had a different idea. And that was, and if you didn't see the videos, you could see, I believe it was Yahya Sinwar who was actually taking his really fat wife. I wonder if that's going to get me on YouTube for calling someone that. He was hiding her and a bunch of TVs underground in the tunnels, expecting the retaliation from Israel. So even at that point, essentially they knew that the Israelis were going to strike back hard. But at the same time, they didn't care because they were protecting their families and their children first. So what does that say about a leader. And he has said time and time again, and that video that I showed you where he said something like, yeah. Is it?
However, what is October 7th, Israel had never
see.
unleashed this level of death and destruction on Gaza before. How can you look at me with a straight face and tell me that you accept no responsibility whatsoever for what has happened in the 2 years since?
What is the option is left for the Palestinians to do? Yeah, and we waited for. So,
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, sir, with all
I think there are a lot of options, actually.
due respect, I'm asking you whether you accept any
Also, why am I looking over there when I'm talking to to you guys? I should be looking over there because that's where my camera is. Anyways,
responsibility for the death and destruction that has followed since October 7th
this
in
is
Gaza.
the first time that Palestinians have shown sacrifice in this Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
hold on, but did the average Palestinian agree to sacrifice this much? I don't think so. Like, did they agree to essentially lose their homes and their families potentially in one of the biggest conflicts they would ever witness in their lives? I don't think so, because his comrades in Yahya Sinwar were hiding their families underground in tunnels and giving them safety, but they weren't doing it for ordinary Palestinians. So what exactly is the sacrifice here? There's no sacrifice that they or consented to.
Since 1948 till now, 100,000 people were killed, 100,000 Palestinians were arrested.
But what gives you the right to decide that Palestinian women and children should
Correct.
be sacrificed on the altar of your resistance?
No, all the time we are sacrificing. We are fighting, not Hamas, Fatah and People Front, Democratic Front.
What's he talking about? Hamas literally went to... You should look at what Hamas did to Fatah members once they got into power. Obviously, Hamas was voted in.
I'm asking you about the civilian deaths in Gaza and what gives you the right to decide it's a price worth paying. That child can die. It's okay. Because it's in order to fulfill our resistance.
As Hamas, we are fighting for the interests of the people. We don't want our people to be killed.
Well, hold on. That doesn't match up with what he said before, though.
We don't want our people to suffer more and more. I think now, look, you know what is the benefit of October 7 now? Now, win the award now. If you look to the General Assembly yesterday.
Oh, it's just a disgusting way of speaking about this, isn't it? There's no award here.
When about 194 people opened their eyes and looked to the atrocity, to brutality of Israel, and all of them, they condemned Israel. We waited for this moment for 77 years.
So it sounds like what he is saying is, and I think this is what I've said many times, and I think if you've been paying attention, you already know that this is the case. It's a propaganda victory that they're looking for.
In order to open their eyes to see that there is occupation, there is suffering of the Palestinian people, and we should end this occupation. I think this is a golden moment for the world to change the history. I think that now...
What does it mean occupation as well? The Israelis did leave Gaza in 2005. The people were kicking and crying, and they even dug out graves of Jews and essentially left... I believe there are a number of greenhouses. They just left it in great condition, and the Palestinians essentially just burned them down immediately afterwards. What's he talking about? You don't get recognition. I mean, obviously, look, I think I'm actually incorrect there, because he did in fact get recognition from useful idiots like Albanese, Starmer, Carney, Macron, because of what they're seeing on their TVs, and importantly, because over the past 20-30 years they have imported so many Muslims into their countries. They now have very large, significant, powerful ethnic voting blocks. By ethnic, I'm referring primarily to religious voting blocks. That is why they've got recognition.
Oh, the world is a change. The history is a change now.
Sir, you were just saying that as a result of October 7th, you are seeing millions of people marching in the streets, you are seeing countries recognize Palestine as a state, you are seeing legitimacy for your people. And I'm asking you whether the price that Palestinian people have paid so far was worth it.
I know the price is so high, but I'm
Do
asking
you?
again, what is the option?
It's worth
What
it.
is the option left to the Palestinians? You know what? We waited for a peaceful process.
They were given a state many times. They've rejected a two-state solution pretty much every single time they were offered. That is a fact.
For a peaceful means since 1993, since Oslo Agreement, till now, but I think we got a big zero.
Let me show you the words of your people. Okay, these are people in Gaza, and I want you to hear, because your own people in Gaza say that you do have responsibility for the situation. I'd like to show you this.
رسالتنا لحماس أنه كفى مقامرة ومغامرة بنا كفاكم يعني
I
أنتم
know.
منفصلون عن الواقع.
Please watch.
I have
Please
seen- I
watch.
have seen it.
This is not it. There's more.
I have seen this video.
Sir,
Yes.
there is
yes.
more.
I have seen this video.
I would like you to. There are 3 people here. I would like you to hear their
I
voices.
know people are suffering. There are some people blame Hamas.
Why will you not listen to the voices of Palestinian people in Gaza?
Look, yeah, I know. This is not the whole story. I know because this is because of the Israeli crimes in the Gaza Strip.
Oh my god. It's circular logic, isn't it? Like, okay, we didn't have any choice, which is also not true. So they launched this attack that they knew would attract very severe retaliation, and it did happen. And they're still not taking responsibility, and they're blaming the retaliation. Like, there's no winning with this. And I think this is certainly why perhaps I do believe the Australians and Canadians and the Brits recognizing Palestine at this time is perhaps not the greatest idea, because number one, and I think also this is all a bit symbolic, and they're trying to appease their large voting blocks. So this is what they say, yeah? They're like, oh, hold on, we're in recognizing we're going to get the PA in power, the PA who's led by Abbas, who's 500 years old. So yeah, we can ignore that, because I don't think that's realistic either. But Hamas aren't going to be in power in Gaza when obviously the two-state solution happens. But they never say how they're going to do that. Like, how are you going to remove Hamas from power? Because they are quite happy. They actually thanked these countries for the recognition the other day. They were assuming that they had been rewarded for this strategic act they did, which was October 7th. So all these countries saying, oh, we're going to remove Hamas. How are you removing them? You have put out no plans as to how that's going to be done. And that perhaps is my biggest issue with all of this. Because, like, you can say all of that, but that's not happening, is it? And ironically enough, it is in fact the Israelis who are doing anything to try and eliminate Hamas, even going so far as striking Qatar, of all places, to try and get rid of the remaining leadership. But I wonder if that includes this guy, actually. 40,000 Indonesian troops? I don't know about that. I don't think Indonesia is sending anybody there. In fact, I don't think... Because if you think about it this way, okay, none of the rich Gulf nations are taking in thousands of Palestinians today, especially as a result of the current conflict. They're all going to European countries, and they're going as far as Australia. In fact, Australia took like more Gazans than all other Western developed countries combined at one point, which is crazy to me. And you know what? Australia, like, who consented to it? No one. And they didn't actually reveal too much about this as well. They did it by stealth. The way they did it, funny enough, was to give all these people tourist visas, because they wouldn't be able to get expedited refugee status or whatever. So they gave them tourist visas. These people come over. The government was the left-wing government, by the way, who are currently being held hostage to a few sectarian voting blocks. They bring these people over, and they're going to be like, oh, guess what? intelligence services have actually conducted proper checks on these people and they're all good. But that's not entirely true, because I do recall quite a number of these people got caught out for social media posts or being affiliated with Hamas terror-linked activity. In fact, the best one I did see was Sky News. You probably have seen a number of their videos on YouTube. They actually found someone, I believe, celebrating October 7 within, what was it, like almost overnight, after Albanese said the proper checks were conducted on these people. So it kind of threw a spanner in their entire plan, because what they were saying wasn't entirely true. And I am certain I have seen one of these people literally the day after they arrived in Australia. They were seen at a protest, and what they were wearing this t-shirt, okay? And it was talking about how it was essentially co-opting the indigenous struggle. They were talking about how sovereignty was not ceded and Australia was not a legitimate state. Literally the day after Australia gave them asylum from Gaza. How crazy is that? Like, you have no concept of being thankful to the state that just took you in, and you're already calling that state to be dismantled and to go back to, I don't know what ideas you have, but this is how these people are thinking. So how exactly does that enrich the lives of broader Australian society? I honestly don't know. But like I said, I think these people, this is actually the video I had in my latest video. Have a look at this.
أعطيني بس أقول لك مثل، ليش كل الدول أصبحت تعترف بفلسطين الآن؟ قبل 7 أكتوبر هل في دولة تجرأت على أن تعترف بدولة فلسطين؟ أعطيني بس مثال. الآن حصاد 7 أكتوبر هو الذي خلى كل العالم يفتح عيونه على القضية الفلسطينية. اليوم ليش كل الدول؟
Yeah, so they're saying, look, they've done October 7 and they have been rewarded. Why, after they've been rewarded, the people in power, why should they give up their power? Because they're the governing force, and they were actually elected by, I believe, like 80% or something like that. So I have no idea why all these countries can suddenly be like, all right, we're going to remove Hamas, or Hamas cannot be in power. It's going to be the PA, which is headed by someone who's 500 years old and has essentially not been very effective in negotiating anything in the past. It's just fantasy. It's entirely symbolic. And I think we're all probably going to forget about the fact that these countries recognize Palestine. And look, at the end of the day, I also do think the best way possible would be for Palestinians to have sovereignty and be able to take their own, essentially, futures into their own hands and do something about it. But they were given that opportunity since 2005. And unfortunately, a terror organization was elected, and that terror organization has now carried out the worst atrocity against Jews since the Holocaust. And what does recognizing Palestine do now with the same people in power? It's going to lead to the same thing. It's just going to become like this new Palestinian state is going to become another rocket base to a launching pad against Israel. Yeah, not going to happen. I think we're all living in a bit of a fantasy world. But I do want to point out a very interesting twist to this whole thing, because while Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom and France, I always forget France for some reason. Well, they were all recognizing Palestine. One country decided not to, and I do want to talk about this country a little bit. All right, let's have a look at my bookmarks, because I did, and that country is New Zealand. Our dear neighbours for the Australians here. New Zealand, as you all know, was actually a very left-wing country for a while, but the Conservatives won in their last election. I actually did not think that would happen because Jacinda Ardern throughout the pandemic and all that, I thought was extremely popular. I had no idea not idea, but I just had no expectation that the Conservatives would be able to come into power. But it looks like our Kiwi neighbours aren't actually that bad. Let's listen to the Foreign Minister Winston Peters talking about why they would not recognise a Palestinian state.
Ladies and gentlemen, because even now, after almost 2 years of this outrage, Hamas refused to give the hostages back.
Actually, I forgot to mention that. That point is actually very important. There are still 48 hostages, and welcome Parry Dorsey to the live stream. I don't think I've seen you here before, but speaking of Canada, I believe like around 10 Canadians were actually killed in the October 7 massacre. So it's a bit shocking that Canada was part of the group that actually did recognize Palestine. Yeah, they might sound weird, but it's not that weird, is it? I don't find the Kiwi accent to be that weird. I don't know, like I find it harder to understand at times though, but I don't find it that bad at all compared to, I don't know, like a Scottish accent. But New Zealand has been in the news quite a bit recently for a number of reasons. Obviously, a part of this is recently has been them not recognizing Palestine, which somewhat came up as a surprise to me, despite them being conservative, because a number of these countries, I mean, even Macron's government is seen as more centric, but centrist, but even they have essentially recognized Palestine. And that's because if you saw my video with Harry Sultan, I actually did say, keep an eye out on France, not the UK, because the UK is at a certain stage at the moment. But based on data I've seen on Pew Research, it is actually France that might potentially have the largest number of Muslims living in it by the year 2050. If accounting for a high migration scenario, and I think that it is quite high at the moment. So I do think France will be in a bit of trouble. But going back to New Zealand, check this out. This is them protesting recently quite a bit again. Shockingly enough, they were protesting against Palestine and Islam. Like, can you imagine something like that happening in Australia or the UK? You're going to get arrested. I can assure you, there's no way you're getting out of that without some sort of criminal charge against you, especially with some of the new laws that are coming in. Let's have a listen. Look at this. The Maoris are... Okay, they're not saying anything. I thought that was going to be a speech. Oh, here we go. The haka is pretty cool. Culturally speaking, one of the coolest things anywhere in the world, in my opinion. Alright, let's... Yeah, have a look at this. Oh, actually, I don't know if the music can be played. So I'll just go... Yeah, look. It's a Muslim Brotherhood flag they're tearing. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, check this out. There you go. Who has been this open about this sort of thing? This is crazy. Honestly, this is crazy to me.
nation. In the name of Jesus, we finish your power in our nation.
No one does that in Australia or the United Kingdom or even Canada. You're going to jail if you do that.
I want to bless your nation. You are the cradle of civilization. The cradle of Christianity rests with you. We support you, but we must have Christianity as our religion, official religion. Tell what's his name? What's the name of your? I forgot the name. Nations.
Yeah, these are crazy scenes, and I think New Zealand is just one of those countries that I never expected to be to get here, but at least they recognize that. Yeah, they are Christians, and I think they are quite religious Christians as well. But at least in a way, they recognize how a lot of these Western nations got to the point they are at now. Land of the Hobbits. I certainly wasn't going to put it that way, but I would have never thought. Okay, the English-speaking Anglosphere it's having a lot of issues, but the last remaining stronghold to be New Zealand. That's something I did not expect. You might think it would be the United States or something like that, but generally, like they're slightly different because of their constitution and how they're independent from the United Kingdom. However, New Zealand, not only is it a safe haven now, it appears, from the whole mind virus of Palestine and all of that, and also it is a safe haven for some of the world's richest people because they all seem to be building these bunkers over there. So it turns out if Islam does become a very big problem, that becomes a bit violent in a lot of these countries, New Zealand remains as a safe haven because of these people, and they're very public about it. I just don't think something like this could take place in Australia, Canada, the UK, or maybe even France. I don't know. Not at this point. Not safely, at least. A Muslim hobbit, yeah. A Muslim hobbit would almost certainly be working for Sauron. I actually think if we're going to think about Lord of the Rings as a real world, Mordor is where Muhammad comes from, and Sauron is Muhammad. And the One Ring is Aisha. Hopefully that doesn't get me into too much trouble for saying that. Anyways, that's what I wanted to essentially bring up about New Zealand. Now, Gollum. Who would Gollum be? I'm thinking about it. Gollum is actually, yeah, that's gonna get clipped. Hopefully not. I'm the one who clips things on these live streams anyway. Gollum is Muhammad. No. Muhammad is Sauron. Gollum is Allah, your namesake. Because anywhere you put it, they were the same people, really. Now, I do want to. So I came across this guy. Like he does a lot of these street interviews. Hermes, I think you might have. If you're on Instagram, I've been avoiding getting on, or creating a Cyberpunk Dingo page because it's just a bit weird compared to X. Is Greta Thunberg? Yeah, you could see it that way, couldn't you? But I feel like Greta is more like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. You can see the resemblance with that new haircut she's got. Now, this guy, if you have seen his videos before, he just interviews a lot of people, and a lot of it is quite edgy. He leads people, and there's a lot of controversial subjects there. We're not going to get into that on this live stream. I don't think a lot of that, what he does, is actually relevant to me either. But I can't help but I couldn't help but actually watch some of his stuff, because there was a, where was it? Where's the one about the jizya? Oh, here. Okay, I'll come back to that one, but let's start with the one where he asked these people about Western values. I believe he is in the United Kingdom, and he's talking to these people, as you can see with the gazebo there. I believe these people are Dawah bros. They're essentially Islamic evangelists. They're trying to spread their religion, which is pretty weird, to be honest. Objectively speaking, I find it really odd that there are people doing this, because everything you're trying to spread through these teachings are essentially just against everything that the country you're living in believes in. Like, yeah, the Dawah bros. Like, the Islam doesn't allow for freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Obviously, there's caveats with the freedom of religion part. But you're trying to preach that in a country that has given you the exact same rights that you wouldn't give to those people if you came into power. That is why I find it really weird. And it's just really off-putting. And a lot of these people are they're not well-groomed. Obviously, the type of grooming they like to do is slightly different. Yeah, I've said a lot of things on this stream, actually. Yeah, they just look very unkempt. And yeah, anyways, we're gonna go past that and just have a look at this clip.
Do you agree with Western values?
Yeah, of course.
So why does the West allow you to marry your mother?
It doesn't. Let me tell you right now, it does not allow you to marry your mother. I actually had a look at this fact. There's no law that allows you to do this. It's nonsense.
I mean, in Islam, a lot of these countries, you marry children.
Correct.
I'm saying, okay, would you rather marry your mother or would you rather marry a child?
That's a non-argument here. What's sorry, Five Blossom. I just had to. I couldn't help myself. This question doesn't make sense here. He's equating two very different things, because he's talking about a type of marriage that is illegal in the West versus a type of marriage that is completely legal in a large number of Muslim countries.
Huh?
Neither?
Huh?
Wait, neither?
You can choose neither. Yes, you do believe in it. Like, this is a massive lie.
We don't believe in child marriage.
No, you do.
Can you provide your evidence?
Yes, I can. Number one, Muhammad, who was seen as the perfect human for all of human history and the future until the end of days, his youngest wife, he married when she was 6 years old. And she was the daughter of Abu Bakr, the first caliph in Islam. So what's he talking about? This is a complete lie.
We marry children.
Also, if you guys don't know, you know this whole concept about the lying in Islam to spread the message further, called taqiyya. I don't know if you know, or perhaps you've heard about it. This is that in action.
Age of consent, I think Iraq or Iran. It's like 12.
Iraq isn't a Muslim country.
Neither is Iran. Okay, I'll tell you. Hold on.
It's not a Muslim country.
What religion are they?
They claim to be Shias. Shias are not Muslim.
No, nonsense. So this is what we call the no true Scotsman policy. Essentially, this is a subjective opinion. By all measures, by all standards, Shia Muslims are considered Muslims, and Iraq and Iran, like, while the Shias might make up a majority, there are still Sunni Muslims, and in Sunni Muslim countries like Yemen, I believe Afghanistan, these are all all of these countries do have an age of consent that is actually very, very low. So I think this gentleman Hermes, he probably doesn't understand how it works that well, because otherwise he would have been able to get this guy on this point almost immediately. This is nonsense. Like, he's immediately being like, no, those aren't real Muslims. The crazy thing is, he's probably going to say that about a lot of Sunni Muslims who don't believe in what he believes in. For example, perhaps what about Muslim men who don't keep long beards without a mustache? Like, are they real Muslims? What about Muslim women who don't wear the hijab at all? Are they Muslims? This guy probably is going to tell you that they're not, because they aren't following the religion to its truest form. I'm assuming he's going to say the same thing about perhaps gay Muslims. Believe it or not, that exist. Like, I don't know how it works, but they do exist, and I do believe this gentleman here probably is going to label them also as non-Muslims. But once again, this is called the no true Scotsman fallacy, and what he's talking about is complete nonsense here.
We don't believe they're Muslim. They're Shia. It's Shia.
Well, I mean, you guys don't, but like, they claim they're Muslim.
They're not claiming anything, Mr. Hermes. They are Muslim.
So one second. So are you Christian?
No, I'm not.
Actually, that's a great point. Like, if you see a Catholic and a Protestant, would you like, say, as an objective third party, are you going to say one of them is not a Muslim? Oh, crap, not Muslim. One of them is not a Christian? Of course not. You're going to consider both of them as Christian, like, because that is what they are. Like, what this guy's talking about is, I mean, there's Mormonism. I feel like Ahmadis probably you could probably equate to Mormons, I guess. But those would be very small, and I guess they're concentrated to very specific countries. But I would still Scientology as Muslims? No.
So
Let's
what
see.
do you believe?
I'm not religious.
So why does Belgium allow you to marry? Why do most European countries allow you to marry your mother?
What? Oh my god, that's not true at all. Actually, if you look it up, this is nonsense. They don't allow that. I don't know where this guy has gotten it from. If it's his crazy fantasies or if he's on the hub a little bit too much, looking at stepmothers and washing machines. I don't know what this guy's problem is, but that is completely untrue.
Wait, so if you don't agree with Western
Kurt, is that right?
values, why do you guys live in a Western country?
Yeah, because
Oh,
we want
got
to be
them.
here.
No, that's not an answer though, is it? Like, you want to be here? Why not in a? I'm assuming this guy's Pakistani. Like, why not live in Pakistan instead? Well, guess what? You won't be getting those welfare benefits if you live in Pakistan, and you might actually have to do work. You can't stand around under this gazebo and with these lawn chairs, giving out free copies of the Quran on a, I don't know, Tuesday afternoon if you're in Pakistan. That is why you're here. Let's stop the nonsense.
Is that a problem?
No, well, I'm asking you if you don't agree with the value.
No, but I'm saying he's clearly.
I'd rather answer his
no,
questions.
but he's trying to clip farm. That's what.
Clip farm? He's asking. Well, okay, true. That part is true. I'll give him that. Because that's what this guy does. Having said that, he's not given one truthful answer. Like, it's fallacies here and there, and on a rather important question, he just completely lies as to why he's here. Objectively speaking, culturally, religiously, ethnically, in every way possible, they would lead better communal lives in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or wherever they want. There are patriarchal societies. Women in these countries do not have the same rights as men. People are dressed the same way as them. They all practice the same religion. It's a standard. No other religion can even build... no other religion can... I was laughing at that comment, the Summer Gamer. No other religions can build their churches or temples or whatever in those countries, so you don't have to be worried about them. So, like, in every on pretty much every objective metric, they would lead better lives in those countries apart from the one. And that one is economic benefits. Like I said, they can't be sitting in this gazebo on a Tuesday afternoon talking about marrying their own mothers or whatever they're talking about, giving out free copies of the Quran. If the United Kingdom, for example, didn't provide them with the economic benefits that they do provide them. And if you're looking at, even the way they're dressed, doesn't look very British to me, does it? All right, let's have a look at the second clip.
What age was Aisha?
This one's about Aisha. I'll increase the volume. Hopefully, Kurt, you can hear this one a little bit better.
What age was Aisha?
So Aisha was pubescent.
No, she wasn't. That's not true. Again, I feel like what they're doing is, because this gentleman Hermes probably doesn't have a lot of knowledge around Islam or even Islamic history, it's easier to lie to him and get away with it. See, instead, if I were there talking to this hobbit from New Zealand, Pakistan, in that case, I would have been able to call him out almost immediately, because it's not as easy to lie to someone who actually knows what they're talking about.
She was pubescent? How old?
No, she wasn't.
She was pubescent.
No, she wasn't.
So your criteria for
puberty.
Yeah, so
But how old was she?
That's irrelevant.
No. She was not 9. Let's get this right. When she married Muhammad, she was 6.
You said your criteria is puberty, correct? So according to
No. Actually, can I have that word in this? Maybe I'll skip that bit. Now you can read this. Now, I wouldn't consider that a criteria. Obviously, it's not normal, Fire Blossom. It's not normal. I think it's probably a bit older. But at the same time, I do think, like, even a lot of European countries all around the world, obviously these norms and these customs and these morals have evolved over time. And they evolved over time because people learned over hundreds of years as to what is best. And I do know for a fact that people don't even get fully developed brains until they're in their 20s. So I think, therefore, society has arrived at a point where they're like, all right, here are some numbers that we feel like, on average, work out best for people. But these people don't think like that. They're still stuck to the whole, because obviously Muhammad was the perfect man for all of history. That example, if they go against that, and this is where I do like sort of putting people like this on the back foot and on the defensive, because this is where you can really get them. Because they believe that he is the perfect human, there's a bit of cognitive dissonance at play here, because they all know it's wrong. If they had a daughter that young, they're not going to arrange for marriage of their daughter to a person who was like mid-50s, like Muhammad was. That's just not going to happen. Like even if somebody else was like, all right, but this is what it says in your religion, whatever, this person's not going to do it. I guarantee you that would be the case. The only reason they're saying all of this here is because today they don't actually have to do it. It's much easier to just say all these things and lie to Mr. Hermes here, because they know this is going to go on the internet, on social media, and they're trying to sort of lie out of this issue. But I'm going to skip this part because I don't know if that word there is going to be accepted on YouTube.
I would say in our society is like 18.
Yeah, I also do think 18 is a good number, because all these countries, they have arrived at that number, and there's a reason for it.
18, beautiful. So I want you to condemn Italy. Do you know what the age of consent in Italy?
16.
14.
Hold on just a second. Interesting. Now, this is very devious by them. It's actually not even funny. So a lot of the countries, right, Western countries, their age of consent might be 14, 16. But there's something called the Romeo and Juliet rule. It might not be the same name across these countries. But what it says is, essentially, if your age of consent is like, say, 14, you can only date someone who's maybe 2 or 3 years older than you. Anything above that is illegal. See, this guy, he's not going to mention that. Yeah, so even in Sweden, that might be the case, but the Romeo and Juliet rule applies. But they're not gonna tell you that.
14. So I want you to go do a protest against Italy.
Isn't there rules for like 14 and 18 and then past that?
14.
Yes, there are rules.
14, that's the minimum.
So less than 3 years older than them.
There you go.
So
that's the Romeo and Juliet law. There you go. Immediately got fact checked. What's he gonna say
true.
now?
So 3 years. So 14 and 17.
So what he's trying to say, however, is 6 and Muhammad was, I believe, 53 or 54, something like that. So he's trying to say that's fine, but it's not the same situation at all. Like, once again, this guy's lying again. As I said, Dawah bros are very good at this. They rely on, especially Western-born people, to not know very much about the religion at all, so that they can get them on points like this.
Wait, the age of consent in Italy is 14.
Yeah, engage in sexual activity with partners who are less than 3 years older than them.
So you think
14 and 70, you can't go above 70.
Oh, first he said 18.
Oh no, Mr. Hobbit, the Hobbit is trying to trick you again. Look, he feels like he thinks there's a thing he's doing. No, he's not doing it. There's nothing he's doing here.
Why are you so angry?
And now I showed him. I'm not angry.
No, you didn't show him anything. You're completely misconstruing what's being said here. The average, the number at which you're an adult might be 18, but the other number you're talking about is very different to what this guy actually believes. These are very two different things, and he's trying to equate all of that together. These people are just really devious, aren't they? It's actually crazy when I'm watching it on a live stream like this and just talking to people watching with me. Like, it's just insane how much they lie. Oh my god. All right, let's there's now the big one actually is none of them. There was one where a lot of people actually commented, a lot of Muslims actually commented on this because they felt like the Hobbit here actually won this debate. So we're just gonna play it real quick.
I know jizya tax, that non-Muslims will have to pay a tax.
Yep. Yes.
I would say, do you agree with that? Like, if someone doesn't want to follow the religion, they have to pay a tax?
No, actually, let me correct you, Mr. Hermes. That option is only offered to Abrahamic followers of the Abrahamic religion. So actually, Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians had that choice to either pay up the tax or they could convert, or obviously the third option is done. Everybody else, the pagans, I don't think they were Buddhists or Hindus in Islamic Arabia, but later on, when those people would not have been offered this choice, they would have been offered go and meet Allah or convert. Those were the only two options.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, what's the issue?
There are many issues with this. Number one, the jizya was only a very small part of what was called the dhimmihood. Ronisha. Dhimmis were essentially second-class citizens in Islamic states or Islamic caliphates.
Well, what's the issue with that?
Thank you very much, Ortho Zutlip. Muslim. Muslims lie about the percentage of jizya. There is no set amount. The Muslim ruler can choose the amount. That is absolutely true. This guy's going to throw out a number, and it's pretty funny, actually.
What's the issue with that?
What's the issue? I don't want to be a Muslim.
Yeah, well, Mr. Hermes, you don't want to be that, and also there's the other very important part of you probably don't want to die either.
You don't have to be a Muslim. Just pay your 2% tax.
No. Again, this guy's lying about this. Like the jizya offer was not on the table for a lot of people. And actually, here's a really fun fact for everybody. If you haven't seen my video on Islamic colonialism and the history behind it, the funniest part of all of this is not even some Muslims were exempt from paying the jizya. Believe it or not, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but a large number of Muslims also had to pay the jizya because the way it is Islam, when it came about, was essentially an Arab supremacist religion. It was meant for the Arabs. It wasn't meant for anybody else. So all the black converts and all, they actually still had to pay the jizya. And this actually led to rebellions. I believe it was the Rashidun Caliphate that almost that did collapse because there were so many Muslims who had to pay the jizya and were treated like second-class citizens despite converting. So what this guy's saying here is not true at all. And this 2% tax is absolute utter nonsense. It can be anything. And the 2%, the actual jizya was significantly higher than what Muslims paid, which was called zakat, which essentially went to broader society.
Well, but I don't want to pay a tax just because I'm not Muslim.
So you stop in the UK to stop paying your taxes and see what happens.
Oh no, that's not the same thing. In fact, I can look at it as, let's look at taxes in Australia. If you don't earn a certain amount per year, you don't have to pay taxes. So poor people essentially don't pay taxes. And in fact, there's an amount, I believe it's around 12,500 Australian dollars. The first 12,500 off your income, you don't pay taxes on because that's your tax-free threshold. And the taxes we pay in Western countries and the jizya are very, very different things. I love how he's trying to make it seem like they're the exact same thing. They're not. Author is that? Another question. Have you heard of Ryan Williams? Yes, I have. He was the Scottish Korean with Bacon. He went on Freya Leach's show on Sky News and got kicked off. Yes, I have heard of him, and I actually love his friend's videos. Who goes? I think he goes to like Pakistan and India, and he plays the bagpipes, and he wears like the whole Scottish getup. Yeah, I have seen that. It's really funny. I think it's actually quite funny that he was able to get on Australian mainstream news and do that bit, and actually call Muhammad all sorts of names. It was fantastic. A very brave man, in fact.
Yeah, it's not because I'm not Muslim.
Yeah,
though.
actually, going back to this point, in Australia, so it's not mandatory, and when you do pay taxes, you're not a second-class citizen. When dhimmis pay taxes, it's a humiliation ritual because when you went to the taxman, you actually got slapped on the back of your head. And I believe even in the Quran, it actually talks about humiliating the dhimmis. And so part of it was... Okay, Abbasid. There you go. My bad. Thank you for correcting me there, Fire Blossom. But part of that tax was to also humiliate the dhimmis, who were second-class citizens. In Australia, everybody, well, at least on paper, everybody is... Not on paper. Realistically, everybody is equal under the law. So when I pay taxes to the ATO, the taxman isn't coming up behind me and humiliating me. That's not what's happening at all. In fact, taxes are equally applied to everyone. Obviously, if you're very rich, you can get your accountant to do some fun stuff. But at the same time, with your taxes in a place like Australia, it's very transparent as to what that gets spent on. Here, these are very, very different things, and I think I actually noted down some of those differences here as well. Where is that? Yeah, and there is no discrimination when it actually does come to paying taxes in the UK and Australia, is there? Like, is there a religious group that does not have to pay taxes in any of these countries? Not at all. Every person, regardless of the religion you follow, you do have to pay taxes. So, like, I don't know why this guy is making that false equivalency, because it's nonsense, actually. And I think he's going to bring up the zakat.
Taxes here.
Yeah, and we as Muslims, we pay zakat.
Yeah, they pay zakat as a religious obligation. Zakat was actually considered an act of worship. It's not something you pay because the state requires your taxes to run it. It was your religious obligation to pay it.
You know, zakat is charity.
It's worship. It's not charity, it's worship.
You as a Muslim, you don't pay that.
Whoa, wait. No, well, he's paying the jizya tax, which is significantly more than zakat, which is worship.
So this is why you have to pay. And by the way, you pay taxes because you're under our protection.
No, well, protection. That's a weird word, because most of these people were conquered violently by the invaders. That is why they were given the option of you either pay the jizya or you convert, or obviously there's that amazing third option there for you. This is again complete nonsense that there's protection. There was significant economic and social pressure to convert. So obviously the jizya was deliberately set higher than the zakat in many places. So they made it a financial burden that essentially forced a lot of non-Muslims towards conversion. So and the other part of it was, so the ongoing humiliation and the legal restrictions. I think the dhimmis weren't actually even allowed to ride horses. They were only allowed to ride mules and donkeys. And obviously the constant reminder of that subjugation meant the jizya wasn't simply, a revenue stream. It was in every way imaginable a coercive tool to get you to convert to Islam. Like him talking about this protection thing is just complete nonsense. And funny enough, dhimmis were excluded from fighting precisely because they were considered inferior and disloyal. They weren't even allowed to join these armies. And ironically enough, under the Ottomans, who did make dhimmis pay jizya, the dhimmis were conscripted anyways. They did have to fight. And a lot of these soldiers weren't even adults. So what this guy is saying, again, is nonsense. Paying the jizya did not guarantee exclusion from fighting in Islamic armies. And the other part was, obviously, they weren't fighting on behalf of the dhimmis. Author, thank you very much again for that. 30 of them, that's true. Again, this is nonsense. What he's talking about, they weren't fighting on behalf of the dhimmis, were they? This is absolute nonsense. They were fighting to expand or defend their empire, in which the dhimmis did not have an equal stake. So what? Again, this is a complete lie that he's talking about. And once again, Hermes, he probably doesn't know the history behind this, so he probably can't tell you this. Can't tell this gentleman exactly that, and he's this man. He's taking complete advantage of the fact that of that ignorance.
Right? If the country was to go to war.
Yeah, to expand your empire, and the country, by country you mean the place that you probably conquered from the natives.
Right, you would not join the army.
No, there's a good chance, and there's a lot of historical precedents behind you having to join it anyways, and the likelihood is you're probably going to be considered cannon fodder.
Would have to defend you. This is why you pay the jizya.
No, they're not. They couldn't care less about you, mate. No, honestly, they're not doing it for you. They're not defending you. They're defending their empire.
Taxes. It's called a protection tax.
It's not a protection tax. Again. Complete lies.
So if the country was to be invaded, you wouldn't fight.
You might have to fight.
You would just be chilling in your house.
You would not be chilling. In fact, you would be living a very difficult life as a dhimmi. You are a second or third class citizen.
You would fight. This is why the jizya is in place.
I know jizya.
Yeah. So this is the So this is the video where a lot of the comments on his Instagram page were like, "Oh, bro, you got cooked. He got you big time." But well, to be fair, Hermes here couldn't argue back because he simply wasn't aware of the facts, and this guy could just create the most misleading facts or create false equivalencies and just use as many fallacies as he can. The primary one was just absolute lies to essentially trick this person into thinking that the jizya was something it completely wasn't. I can assure you, people, and actually there was an example I used, and I think this is quite relevant. The dhimmis were living in such horrid conditions that after Muhammad died, a large number of so-called Muslims almost immediately left Islam. They just all started leaving. And that's what led to the infamous Ridda Wars or the apostate wars. And that's when, and this is actually the story behind how the Quran was initially compiled, and how it worked was because so many people left, the Muslims essentially went after them. There was a war there against the apostates, and a lot of Muslims who had memorized the Quran were dying in battle. And I believe it was, which caliph was it? Umar, maybe. I think he came to Abu Bakr, who was the first caliph at the time, and said, "Hey, look, this is happening, and there's a legitimate fear that the Quran may be lost to time, as a lot of people who had memorized it were dying in battle." So Abu Bakr got a bit panicked, and that's when they first compiled it into a book. That was the first time that happened. Now, obviously, there's this whole thing that Muslims will tell you about how, oh, it's a miracle because it's been unchanged, blah, blah, blah. That's all nonsense, because even after it was compiled into one book, there were multiple versions of it. And it wasn't up until Osman that all the other versions were essentially destroyed, and what we know today as the Quran is the version that Osman actually compiled and standardized. So there's a story there as well. And yeah, Nathan, that's correct. Aisha's goat ate some pages, and there were a number of pages that were unfortunately conveniently lost to various farm animals or, I don't know, natural disasters, and in fact it got so bad at one point one of Muhammad's scribes was like, "Oh man, this guy is full of crap. Like, he's just talking utter nonsense." And he ended up, I wonder if he was the first apostate, actually. And he ended up leaving as well. So, bad weather. Yeah, bad weather. Alien invasion. There were so many of these. And a lot of these conveniently were pages that they did not, that perhaps weren't beneficial to the overall political ideology. Now, let me read some of your comments. Simchi, legend, you dropped it. Thank you very much, Simchi, for joining. I don't believe I've seen you in my live streams before, but glad you could make it tonight. Mr. Dave, thank you very much for joining as well. Mr. Dave, where are you joining from today? You say your channel teaches me a lot that I didn't know before. I'm glad I was able to do that. And glad you've been watching these videos. Simchi, that I believe you must not be in the live. You must be watching one of the previous segments, but I believe that was actually quite recent. Yeah, your name is pretty funny, mate. Every single time it comes up, it's amazing. Your thoughts? Yes, Colombian president. Well, he wasn't only calling for that. The Colombian president. Let's see if we can find a video. X. Again, this is just. Can I put this on again? It's just so funny to me. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Good picture, everybody. So we look nice and handsome and thin.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
God, the way they zoom in. It's so good. Anyways, I'll go. I just had to watch that a second time. Let's have a look at Colombian. Yeah, so... Oh, he's speaking Spanish. I don't know if there are any Spanish speakers here, but essentially he was outside the UN calling for US soldiers to defy Donald Trump, and the State Department has already revoked his visa. I find it very distasteful, honestly. This very extreme left-wing president. Like, it's not only distasteful, Mr. Ortho, but I also feel like it's extremely hostile to your host country. Like yes, the United States obviously guarantees the freedom of speech, freedom of religion to everybody. Their First Amendment in the Constitution is probably the most powerful in the world, actually. But at the same time, like, you are a guest, and in fact, you are a leader of a nation that was invited to attend the United Nations, and you're a guest, and you don't go around essentially calling for a coup, which would be violent against your host government, in which a lot of people are probably going to lose their lives. It's beyond me how he thought this would be a great idea. Obviously, another pro-Palestinian man, as you can see by this, and I don't think it was great at all. As I said, I feel like it was actually an extremely hostile thing to do, and in fact, like this guy is saying, yes, correct. I do think you could almost argue that it was an act of war. I don't know too much about Colombian politics, to be completely honest with you. I did see this come up on my X feed the other day. I did love the show Narcos on Netflix though, which is fantastic. But I do understand that this gentleman, he is essentially a far leftist. Obviously, once again, he's there they immediately show their true colors of being in the red, green, and lions. Everything to them revolves around this Palestinian resistance movement, which is at a deeper level an Islamist movement. Yeah, guess what? System error message. I strongly feel like if Stalin were alive today, if he was a modern leader, he would be one of those. He would be extremely pro-Palestine. He would be doing exactly this probably. Parry, you must have said something a bit too naughty, I think. I think YouTube. I don't know if you deleted that message yourself, or maybe YouTube has done it, but I think they will take out messages if they're too rough. So if you're commenting, do keep that in mind. YouTube can be a bit rough around that. But I definitely agree with this. Let's have a look through some of this feed. There's a little bit of news around today. I can't talk about the UFC. I don't know. Oh, I won't. Can't talk about the UFC. Maybe one day I will, if there's enough people here that do follow the UFC. And I follow this guy here, Dr. Malouf. I think I don't know if he's an ex-Muslim, but he posts a lot of videos about Islam. He does a lot of commentary on Islam and puts out a lot of videos that are very, very spicy, like this one here, which is a modern slave market. Something that is perhaps not too talked about in the modern world, especially when it comes to Islamic nations. But unfortunately, it's just a matter of fact, isn't it, that it's a practice that is very much alive in many Muslim countries, and even in Gulf states, where perhaps on paper it's not legal anymore. They have, like, say, the kafala system, which is a backdoor into essentially indentured servitude, where they immediately take your passport when you arrive. Let's just having a look to see if there are any interesting fact. Another queer for Palestine who got there was a nice example of Palestinian tourism, as you can see here. Yeah, I think I ended up liking a few posts about New Zealand not recognizing a separate state of Palestine, and now I'm getting a lot of tweets on X that are essentially from New Zealand. So, yeah, it's been interesting to see, and quite a number of people, yeah, they are saying that they're pretty proud to be Kiwi today, because out of the Anglosphere, that is Okay, there we go. I actually disconnected for a second on the back end there. But out of the Anglosphere, New Zealand was one of the only country that did not recognize Palestine. And actually, that does bring me to Italy, because Italy also, I believe, refused to recognize a Palestinian state. And if you hadn't seen already, there were a lot of protests, violent ones, in Milan against Giorgia Meloni, because she decided not to recognize Palestine. And this sort of brings me back to what I was saying previously. Like, it's a movement that relies so much on intimidation, doesn't it? Like, all of it is do it or else. Like there's a political method of intimidation, which is recognize Palestine, or we're gonna put up independent candidates and defeat you in a federal election. And that's how we're going to punish you, because you imported like 500,000 sectarian votes and thought it was a great thing because you didn't have any, you don't have any long-term thoughts, and now the leopard's eating your face, as they say. I do want to show you this video. I think it's important that you see it. I hope it comes up. Oh, this one. I don't know if you've seen this video, but this is Angela Rayner, and she was the former deputy PM in the UK. And just have a look. She's essentially campaigning during the election, and she's just surrounded by I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it anymore. She's surrounded by what appears to be a large group of Muslims, probably in her electorate. And just listen to what she says. It's really funny.
My voters were very upset with the Labour Party. I was with you, and you saw me over the line.
Oh my God.
You supported me in seats that are similar to mine. People lost their seat.
Yes. Yes, they lost their seat because you brought over as many people as you can who kind of hate you, and they voted against you and put up their own people. I mean, it was always going to happen once the numbers got to a certain point, but I guess you didn't think about that too much.
And I don't believe I could have done that without you.
The toucher, it was somewhat similar to what you were what you're saying there.
I know that people are angry about what's happening in the Middle East, and I said live on TV, and I say to this day, if me resigning as an MP now would bring a ceasefire, I would do it.
No, you won't. This is all an act. You're just, well, ironically enough, she has resigned since, but a number of these people had to. It's so performative. Like, look at her just sitting there. Like, here she is a dhimmi. Like, this is what a dhimmi would look like if you had to travel back in time to have if you were curious. This is what a dhimmi looks like. Completely humiliated, sitting there, like she's watching her husband and another woman in a hotel room, like, and surrounded by people she knows that she needs to appease. Whatever they say, she's got to appease them. It's just, it really is such a humiliation ritual.
I would do it. If I could affect change, the only thing I've done, and Madge knows this, I got 3 British doctors out last week.
Well done to you, Angela.
Rafa, who were stuck there. I worked hard. They went in with 10 suits, supporting the ICC. The Conservatives limit.
Yeah.
And if Labour...
I just felt like, yeah, I had to just share that. Dr. Malouf. Let's have a look through. Towards the end of this live stream, I felt like we could perhaps go through a number of these videos and have a look at them. This video I did see previously. I don't think it's... Oh, crap, that's loud. I don't think it's entirely accurate. Yeah, the toucher, I agree. And in classic UK fashion, there's a few of them. There's a number of them. I don't think this is what this person's saying is happening. I feel like it's more like a graduation or something. And the reason why these people are, their heads are, they're looking down is they're lowering their gaze, because you know what the religion teaches. Oh God, here we go. I think I actually commented on this.
When we go to the bathroom, there are certain etiquettes that we have to follow, and in public, that's a struggle. So
like, what etiquettes? Am I missing something here? Is it to do with the ablution? What is that? Like, okay, let's see what they are.
First, it's important to find a single person stall. If one isn't available, then we go for the other option.
Wait, why are you using the disabled person's room? Oh, actually, I don't have to answer that. You know, like, yeah, you might be one of them.
Before entering, we have to make sure we recite a prayer for protection.
You can do that in any stall. Just do it in your head. Like, when I was practicing Muslim as a child, like, I didn't have to recite everything out loud. I was always told by people who actually studied the religion that you can do it in your head if it's not possible to say it all out loud. Like, are you going to be sitting in a stall like this? There are people next to you taking a dump, and you're just gonna start Allahu Akbar and, you know, whatever. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You're starting all that in the stalls, scaring the shit out of these other people in the next stalls. I just want to take a dump in peace. Like, what are you doing here?
Because the bathroom is an unclean place.
What? God. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, public bathrooms in I don't know where you're from, lady, like Pakistan, I don't know. Maybe they're very dirty, perhaps, but in most developed countries, they generally tend to be pretty clean.
So we do this outside. Since we have to clean ourselves with water, we usually go...
Oh, is that the problem? Okay. She didn't say that. Okay. Well, in Europe, in a lot of European countries, they wouldn't have this problem because a lot of them have bidets. And in Japan, they're pretty great.
For this option, but it wasn't the best. So we found another
What's
solution.
the other solution?
Either
Let's
we
see.
take a portable bidet or a cup. Also,
Oh my God. A cup? What are you doing with this cup? Like, imagine you're the next person in the other stalls and you just hear this person with a bunch of cups, like, oh, just filling it up and what? This is, I actually haven't seen this video. It's so funny.
my preference.
No, I agree with you, Fire Blossom. I think bidets are the way to go. Perhaps not cups. I think bidets are the best way, honestly. A water bottle, I don't know what it could be. But if you've been to Japan, for example, you would know they're the superior system. Yeah, I wish that too, the Tasha. But I guess if you have if you own your own house, it's not very hard because they actually do sell these seats now that sort of connect to the toilet tank. So you don't actually even have to replace your entire seat. It's like attaches on they sell those on Amazon and eBay, so they're actually pretty great.
Is to also use this cover thing.
Usually we bring a portable bidet, but since we don't have that, we have a cup instead. But if we don't even have a cup, we can...
Ah, that accent. I wonder where that's from. Sounds like she's from Pakistan.
just go to any fast food restaurant and ask them for a cup.
Another thing to remember is to enter with our left.
Oh God. Okay. I've got to comment on this. I think Muhammad had a bit of OCD because he just had to do things a certain way. Eat with your right hand. Use your left hand to, clean yourself after doing your business. And I think he even said you have to sleep on a certain side. It's just he was such a weirdo with clear mental issues. And I think that actually worked really well in his favor because when it comes to... Because it essentially functions like a cult. If you can essentially police literally everything every person did, like entering these places with your left foot. And I can assure you, as a child, and I can't recall if people in my family did this or not, none of them did this. Like, nobody cared how you entered the bathroom or anything like that. Like, it was... And they were Sunni Muslims. They really did not care how you did any of this. This is just actual OCD nonsense here.
Foot and exit with our right.
Also,
Oh,
we have to
God.
make sure we wash our hands before going out.
Wait, we do?
Yes.
But what happens when...
Well, I mean, that's not entirely Islamic, is it? Like, do you require Muhammad to tell you to wash your hands after you're done? That's a bit weird. So if Muhammad didn't tell you, you wouldn't be washing your hands? I'll keep that in mind next time when I shake hands with you.
I forget to wash myself in the bathroom?
Then you have to come home, shower, and change your clothes.
How am I supposed to do that if I live on the balcony?
Pray for rain.
Oh my God. So how do, like, I just don't know how these people survive in a Western country. But like I always say, all this complaining they'll do, but you know what they won't do? They won't return to an Islamic country. That's not even in their minds. That's the bigger irony here. Oh, it's very tiring. And guess what? Like, you are living in a non-Muslim country, so you have to adapt to the country, not the other way around. That line of thinking needs to change in order to make assimilation work out. Fireblossom, no. In fact, no. You know what I've noticed is, I mean, obviously they were Sunni Muslim, and this was perhaps before 2004. When the tsunami happened, and that's when essentially everyone got really, really extreme, and perhaps things have changed now. But as a kid, obviously there was the eating thing, like with your right hand. That was definitely true. But entering places, no, not at all. We didn't do that. You know that thing, like if you were Fireblossom, if you were a practicing Muslim, you probably know this theory that Muslims have. Like if a housefly falls into your food or your drink or whatever, Muhammad believed that there's disease on one of the wings and the cure on the other. So you sort of dip it in and take it out and you'll be okay. Obviously that's not true, but I feel like some people did genuinely believe that, but no one was brave enough to actually put it into practice. Like, you just throw out your food if that happened. So there's things like that. I can't play this. I know what I know what they're going to say, but there was a really funny comment. I don't know if it was on Instagram or something, but yeah, I don't know if I can actually say it on YouTube. Oh my god. I'm gonna skip right through that. There's this video that I thought. Oh, another one. Friends is Yeah. Yeah, speaking French, I can't understand you, mate. Oh, the Devon. So, yeah, it's crazy how many people actually knew about the whole fly thing. It was just so dumb. One of the worst hadiths in I think of all time. But there was also like another one. What was it? Let me quickly get ChatGPT to bring it up. About a food item. Oh, here we go. Black cumin. Yeah, apparently Muhammad said that black seed or cumin has a cure for every disease except death. Now, I hope, I genuinely hope people do, obviously they do, but I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, watched the David Wood documentary, Islamicized Me. I'll have a look. Thank you again for that, Wartho. I had there were a number of people who actually did talk about this, but it's very unfortunate that someone would actually think it cured all diseases. Now, when I was young, I think dates and honey were considered very beneficial for your health. I mean, yes, honey scientifically is, but I think they were marketed almost like a miracle cure, like snake oil. Oh, did it? I think my ChatGPT is very good. Yeah, Zamzam water did that as well. I'm pretty sure they actually did a test of Zamzam water and found out that it had a lot of bacteria in it, and it was none of that. And I guess you could look at a lot of various forms of holy sites like that. I think Hindus, for example, believe the Ganges River has a lot of perhaps spiritual properties and whatnot. But have you seen the Ganges River? Like it's disgusting. Like it's one of the worst polluted rivers in the world, I believe, if not the worst. And on top of that, I believe the decomposing body problem, because they do their whole burial thing there, got so bad they released like flesh-eating turtles into that river to try and clean it up, clean up the bodies. But unfortunately for the turtles, there was so much poo in the water that the turtles also ended up dying. So that didn't fix it. So yeah, this is again one of those ones, I think. Yeah, dates. If you're into the whole fitness thing, dates, they taste really good, but yeah, don't go on them too much. They're very high calorie, high sugar. However, having said that, guess what? Those what is it called? The date pudding. Is it called the toffee pudding that Gordon Ramsay makes? That's really good. If you're looking for a snack, have some of that. Not a snack, as a dessert. The Tasha. That is, I have seen. Oh yes, sticky date pudding. I don't know why it didn't come to my head, because I do love a bit of sticky date pudding, and I think the one Gordon Ramsay makes is sticky toffee pudding, but I think they're the exact same thing. I don't know if the Brits just call it something else. Yeah, it's so good. For the Australians in the chat, if you go to Woolies, there's one that's sold by I think a Spanish chef. It's really good, really really good. But it's like $12, so a bit expensive. They put their dad into the river. Yeah, look, as you all know, I'm agnostic. I'm not really into the whole. I'm not into those rituals, but what they've done to that river is pretty sad overall, I think, because if you consider it a holy religious site, the holiest in your entire religion, you wouldn't expect the river to end up in the condition it is today. and I believe I've seen a map. It's like the obviously the river connects to the Indian Ocean, and there's so much bad like contamination that's spilling out into the Indian Ocean from that area that it's become a biohazard, and they're worried like all the sea life in that area are actually going to die, and it's actually going to impact the fisheries industries in that area. It's really it's one of the worst things I've seen, honestly. Okay, this other one. So actually, my next video is that I'm currently working on is about Dearborn, Michigan, and Epic City in Texas. But this is one thing that oh my god, this is at 5 a.m. Yeah, so apparently Dearborn, Michigan now is like 55% Muslim, and therefore this is now the norm. And if you go against this, you can be asked by the mayor of the city to leave the city for being Islamophobic. Now, if you didn't know, in Sydney recently, they actually applied to do this as well, to blast the call to prayer 5 times a day. Obviously, the first one starts very early in the morning, before sunrise, and it got knocked back because obviously, it's not like not everybody wants to hear this. I certainly don't want to hear this 5 times a day. Because it's not a religion I'm practicing, and the call to prayer is only for Muslims to actually come and attend prayers. So why do I need to be involved in this? How about you just send an SMS? Clearly Muhammad didn't account for the fact that we might have technology like this in the future. So there's that. But yeah, I think it's yeah, actually, Whiskey Biscuit, that's true. So in this case, in this video at least, it's one mosque saying this. In Islamic countries, when I was growing up in the Maldives, and it's one of the smallest countries in the world, with the smallest population in the world, there'll be so many mosques in the one city. It all went off at the same time, and it was just it was crazy when I think back to it. So to see this happen in the US and even places like the UK is insane to me. Like it kind of tells me, hey, I think you might have been conquered here, unfortunately. And luckily in Sydney, this was knocked back. They actually applied for this, and fortunately, for now at least, despite having the most the highest Islamic population in Australia, I am glad they were able to take the logical path, a path that works for everybody, and actually stopped it. You left Edinburgh because of this. Was it that loud? God, yeah. I can imagine if your house is nearby, it would just be a disaster. And essentially, that's how they would drive out more people and just keep their enclave nearby. I think it's a really great strategy, honestly, to do that. Now, let's see. I'm just going to quickly transition to a Q&A before we wrap up. Thank you very much, Mr. Dave and Simchi. I've been here for, what is it now? More than half my life now, and it's been fantastic. I always say I was born in the Maldives, but I grew up in Australia, which is true. All right, just open up the comments section to a Q&A, and we'll wrap up after that one. Hopefully, I can put out a video tomorrow. So hopefully you guys will all get to see that. As long as I don't get too lazy. Do I eat bacon now? God, I love bacon. At the moment, I can't because I am doing a caloric deficit. But otherwise, I do love bacon. And today I made scrambled eggs with a bit of creme fraiche, the classic Gordon Ramsay style. And genuinely, I was wishing I could have some bacon with that. But if you do like, I agree with you, the toucher. I don't believe it's just a nationality. From Midjourney, yeah, it is. I'll get to that. If you're living in Australia, there's this really good bacon burger from Grilled. It's the Wagyu. It's part of their Wagyu selection, and it's got bacon and pickles in it. It's so good, but obviously not that great for you. But that's how I like bacon. Orange Blossom. Did you see Bibi's speech at the UN? Yes, I did. He was very good. I don't know if you just joined the live stream, but I went through his speech in an earlier segment, so you can just click back a little bit, and you'll see me talk about some of the stuff that he talked about, especially the part where people walked out. And the toucher, back to what you said. Being Aussie isn't a nationality, it's a way of life. I completely agree with you. I think it's not as simple as someone moving over here, getting a certificate and becoming Australian. I think that's just by name only. There's a lot more to it. I like it's, you know, I think it's almost, I don't know if it's so edgy to say it almost, that I don't even think people like Mehreen Faruqi perhaps are truly Aussie, because they seem to have dual loyalty, in my opinion. They don't sound like Aussies, certainly, after so long here, and their interests don't seem to be aligned with broader Australian values. Tito Tanky, is your outro video from Midjourney? It is. I used Suno for the song, so spent, God, I don't know how many hours I spent on that, trying to get just the perfect song, the way I liked it. Bit cyberpunk, bit 80s, bit of Michael Jackson, and that saxophone solo. That's actually towards the end of the full song. I don't know if you're on Patreon, but I actually uploaded the full song here. The outro that I showed when the stream started is actually it's been sliced a little bit so that I could add in the sax solo, because it was so good. But the animations, yes, it was from Midjourney. I just wanted, like, if you watch a bit of anime, I used to when I was young, and I still put on some animes in the background when I'm doing other things. I just love some of their opening songs or their outros themselves. So I wanted to make it similar to that. And now I guess it's also the starting the starting sequence on these live streams. And going forward, so all the channel members and patrons, just to thank them, there's going to be like something like a rolling credits at the end of my videos, and that's primarily where the animation's going to play. Fire Blossom, what are your diet tips? I only have one, and depending on what you want to do, it is this. If you want to gain weight, eat in a caloric surplus. If you want to lose weight, eat in a caloric deficit. If you were to just wanting to maintain your weight, just eat at a maintenance. Download MyFitnessPal to gauge how many calories you eat per day. Track your calories, and you'll figure it out. If you're just joining the live stream, this is probably not what you were expecting to hear me talking about. But these are my dieting tips, and dieting is actually not very hard. It's just a little bit about your discipline and I guess what you're planning to do with it. I am currently on a deficit because I am going on holiday in November, so don't want a carb heavy body here. I've been losing a lot of strength at the gym. Like I can't bench as much, and I think I've lost at least 10 kilos off my bench already. And today, I think my lat pull downs also were a little bit crap. So I was like, all right, the deficit is really hitting me hard. So I'm just doing 15 reps mostly instead of my usual 10 or under. So hope that helps. But but I do, for exercise, I primarily just hit the gym a couple times a week, and then I also hit the heavy bag for that cardio around twice a week. Let's see. Let's move down on your questions. Do you feel positive with the trajectory of Australia, and what can we, the public, do to make a difference? That's an interesting one. So here's how I see it, and I think a lot of people, like when I did this particular video, a number of people actually kind of disagree with me. But I did say in Australia, the Conservatives or the centre-right were in power for, what, 10 plus years. And what we're seeing now with the Labour movement and the Labour Party just winning everything, really, is a result of that. So, arguably, it's their turn now. I think a lot of people in Australia, like, I think even I can understand, like, a lot of people don't have a stake in the country anymore. Like, if they can't buy a house, and they're not sure of entirely what the country's giving them because they have no stake in it. Everything's expensive. Finding a rental's hard. And there's obvious cultural and societal fractures that we can see around us. Like, have you been to Sydney CBD or even Melbourne CBD recently? It's crazy. It's like going to a different country. And you go to some of these outer suburbs in these cities, and once again, you're just like, this is looking a bit weird here. Like, so for example, Parramatta or Lakemba, these are very distinct suburbs now, and I think it tells you a lot about what's wrong with Australia. I don't think the Labor Party, despite having the people's mandate and having enough power right now to essentially enact any laws they want, I don't think they're being radical enough in trying to fix these issues. I think a lot of young people especially wanted them to do something about housing. What have they done? They haven't built a single new house under their housing. I can't remember what the fund is called. They haven't built a single one under that. They have now allowed people to borrow at 5%, a 5% deposit, which is going to increase demand. It's not going to do anything to fix the supply side, so it's going to make housing even more expensive. Migration levels have not come down. They're in fact still at record highs, and it is changing the electorate, because if you get enough, like, obviously, like, you know, it's a bit of a weird one. Like recently, the Liberal Party fractured completely because one member was talking about how Indians, like 85% of Indians vote for the Labor Party, which ironically enough came from Kos Samaras off the Redbridge group, who does polling for the Labor Party. So he's no stranger to them. Like, he's one of their biggest allies. And yet, because she repeated that point, like, she's now off the front bench. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, she was just repeating a fact. And I think that is going to impact us, you know, and I don't know how for now, but, well, at the moment, how it's going to impact us is they're just going to vote for pro-mass immigration policies. They're not going to vote against that, are they? Because that will be voting against your interests. So there's that. Tito, have you ever interacted with Harry Sultan? Yeah, I did a video with him. If you haven't seen it already, It's on my, like, it was like a little podcast. It came on my channel, and we did a really good conversation for an hour and so. And we did actually talk about collaborating in the future as well. It was a really fun conversation. You should check it out if you haven't already. Natasha, 6th generation Aussie. There we go. Yeah, Suno is, it's been really good. Their version 5 is really fun to play with. Whiskey Biscuit asks, why do religious people think it's impossible to be a conservative and an atheist? Like, I don't need God to believe that marriage is a good thing. Look, that's an interesting conversation. I certainly agree. I think even the word conservative is a little bit like it needs to be redefined, because I feel like with even Donald Trump's presidency now, I feel like when he was elected, it was more of a big tent thing. A lot of people who were just simply not for the Democrats and perhaps the more woke type ideas, they all went to Trump, regardless whether they were Republican or not. Men voted in record numbers, like Hispanic men. A lot of black or African American men voted for Donald Trump in record numbers. So there was that. Like, I think that the whole conservative thing just needs to be redefined a little bit. But at the end of the day, conservative is conserving something, isn't it? Like, and I think that's where that comes from. Like, you're conserving the traditional ideas, and a lot of those traditional ideas do come from, well, in a country like the US, it would be Christianity. So I think that's where it comes from. But I don't think there's a divorce between being a conservative and an atheist, to be honest. Like, I'm agnostic. I wouldn't call myself entirely conservative. I do agree with all of the stuff that you're saying about the whole, traditional families and that. And I do understand that comes from religious, it has a religious foundation behind it. But at the same time, I do believe it's better for overall society, because I'm just looking at the stats here, and children with both parents still married have the best outcomes. That's just a fact. Those are just the numbers. So yeah, that's where it comes from. Let's see. Stop eating so much, says Kurt. Oh, well done, Ortho. You were able to get a personal best on lat pull downs. They're fantastic. They're great exercise. But if you can't, and I use that attachment that's got handles like this as well, so really you can really feel them. Skibisky, I went to the army and lost 14 kilos of sheer cardio. Yeah, God. My cardio is still pretty bad. That's why I'm hitting the heavy bag. Because I used to do Muay Thai, so I'm just doing that still. Just going through, see if there are any other questions. Well, all right. If there's no more questions, I will wrap it up now. But as always, thank you everyone for joining. I think this might actually be the longest live stream I've done so far. But having said that, I also do think this live stream had the most concurrent views out of all the ones that I've done, which is what we're looking for. So maybe next time I will try to hit 100. Obviously, it's not something I do, but hopefully more people will join. But I guess more will join the more I do these ones. But I do hope you guys enjoy. As I always say, if you have a video or anything like that you want me to react to or share with you in these live streams, simply go onto X and tag me in them, and I'll make sure I bookmark them so that when I do get on these, that I can share them with you. And once again, thank you all for joining. I will try to do these on Saturday or Sunday evenings Australia time as usual going forward. So hopefully I will see you guys in the next one as well. And maybe I can even start off by putting up some sort of video game before we actually begin, so you can see me rage at it. So have a good night to everyone joining from Australia, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody else. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.